Oak Island has always been a place filled with questions, secrets, and stories passed down through generations. For many years, people have wondered if the island truly held anything of great value or if the entire mystery was simply a tale that grew larger over time. But now, after decades of work, careful digging, and advanced tests, something very real has come to the surface. Laboratory teams have confirmed that Oak Island does in fact contain treasure worth more than anyone imagined. This season alone, over $95 million in artifacts have been uncovered. These are not simple objects or random pieces of metal. They are important historical items that carry weight, meaning, and a long story behind them. The discoveries include gold, ancient coins, metal objects, carved symbols, and even fragments of religious relics that connect to a time much older than modern Canada. For many years, explorers who came to Oak Island faced one challenge after another. The island was known for its traps, strange tunnels, and chambers that filled with water at the wrong moment. Every time someone thought they were close to something important, the ground shifted, water flowed in, or equipment broke down. But this season changed everything. Instead of running into dead ends, the team uncovered items that were not only rare, but also confirmed by scientific tests. These tests showed that the gold found deep underground did not match gold from any modern source. Instead, it carried a very old signature that pointed to the 14th century, during the same time the Knights Templar operated across Europe. The findings did not come from simple guesswork. They came from soil samples taken from deep inside Shaft 9, an area the team has studied for years. These samples were sent to laboratories, but they were not sent under the team's normal names. They were disguised under coded labels to protect the results from leaking too soon. Even with all the secrecy, someone inside the lab recognized the sample depths. They understood that these samples came from Oak Island. Soon after, snapshots of the report appeared online. Even though they were deleted almost instantly, the images spread fast across the internet, and many began asking questions the team had not prepared to answer. The leaked report described gold that did not match modern refinement. Instead, it matched gold used in the Mediterranean during the Templar era. This era dates back to the late Crusades, long before any map of North America was created. One redacted note inside the report said that the gold had a composition consistent with Crusader-era alloys. That one sentence changed the entire tone of the investigation. It suggested that the gold was not placed there by accident, nor was it something dropped by explorers in recent centuries. It had been placed there with purpose hundreds of years ago. Not long after the first leak, a whistleblower contacted a journalist. The voice message he left claimed that the results were being held back for reasons connected to national preservation. His message was short, but it was enough to spark intense debate. He said, "They know what it is, they just can't admit where it came from."
Soon after, his account vanished completely. No trace was left behind. The next morning, the shoreline near Mahone Bay became crowded with reporters. News crews pointed their cameras toward the island, trying to catch even the smallest sign of activity. Drones flew overhead, scanning the fog-covered trees, the pathways, the shafts, and the machinery. It became clear that something major had happened. If the leaked report was real, then Oak Island was no longer a legend passed from one generation to another. It was the confirmed site of a real treasure buried deep below the surface. Another lab document leaked the following day. This one described gold traces found more than 160 feet underground. The gold was tested using spectrometry, and the results matched Venetian trade gold from the late Crusades. This was a very rare signature. It suggested that the gold had been refined in Europe and then brought to North America long before history ever recorded such a journey. Adding to the mystery, the samples also contained organic material. When carbon dating was performed, the results pointed to around the year 1350, a time when the Templar fleet was rumored to have sailed west, carrying secret cargo. Inside this leaked report, a printed sentence stood out more than anything else. The line said, "Origin non-geological, human intention confirmed." This meant the gold did not come from the natural environment. It had been placed there deliberately, hidden on purpose, and protected with great care. Experts studying the metal noticed that the gold had resisted oxidation for centuries. This was only possible if it had been sealed in containers or if the crafting methods used were far ahead of their time. This discovery led many to believe that the treasure was stored, not scattered, and that it had been protected with intention. As this information spread online, people rushed to the island to catch a glimpse of what was happening, but the team remained quiet. But the island itself was not quiet. Over several days, large trucks rolled in under heavy fog. New platforms appeared near the garden shaft. Reinforced equipment was set up. A helicopter with no visible registration marks circled the island and then left quickly. Boats were seen transporting crates away from the island, covered in thick tarps. Crew members were asked to sign extended non-disclosure agreements. Even close advisors avoided interviews. One short statement finally came from
the team. It did not confirm the leaks, nor did it deny them. Instead, one of the brothers simply said, "We're not looking for legends anymore. We're validating history." Satellite images later showed new digging taking place deeper than ever. Security increased. Nobody outside the team was allowed to get close. Fishermen nearby reported seeing bright floodlights on the island late into the night. The area looked nothing like it had in past seasons. It was clear something massive was underway. Ground sensors picked up signals from deep below the surface. These signals showed metal objects placed together in patterns that did not appear natural. The reading suggested a cluster of containers, possibly chests. The atmosphere on the island shifted. For years, the work felt like solving a puzzle, but now it felt like uncovering something sacred and possibly dangerous. Rumors spread that government agencies were involved. The possibility that the treasure included items connected to the Templars made the discovery not only historical, but political. Countries in Europe known to have Templar history began showing interest. Some feared the objects might spark international disputes over ownership. For now, the team stayed quiet and continued digging. Soon, leaked valuation numbers appeared online. These numbers came from private insurance groups in Europe. The artifacts already recovered were valued at more than $95 million. This list included a gold reliquary fragment with a Templar cross engraved on it, Venetian coins fused together by time, and lead tablets with symbols that no expert could understand. One of these tablets, after being digitally restored, revealed carvings that pointed to Smith's Cove, a location long thought to have been fully explored. As more information spread, historians warned that the verification of Templar gold in North America could disrupt the entire artifact market. It could even bring royal families, churches, and global banks into legal disputes. Monitoring activity increased from financial hubs such as Zurich and Monaco. It became clear the discovery was more than historical. It was tied to wealth, faith, and global power. French archives revealed that the metal in the discovered gold matched gold used in a Templar treasury in France before the order fell. This matched exactly with the stories of the Templar fleet that disappeared around 1307. Many believed those ships carried treasure across the ocean to escape persecution. When scans of the reliquary fragment were sent to Paris, a curator privately confirmed that it matched another relic used by the Templar Grand Master. The curator refused to release a public statement, fearing legal issues, but this private confirmation added great weight to the findings. The team began calling the items Grail Gold, not because they thought it was the Holy Grail, but because it represented something sacred and symbolic. They believed the treasure was meant to carry the beliefs and values of the Templar Order into a new land. Advanced ground scans revealed a dome-shaped chamber deep below the shafts. It had perfect symmetry and included several alcoves arranged like petals around a central space. A probe sent into the area captured carvings of Templar crosses still sharp on the stone walls. This proved the chamber was engineered, not formed by nature.
The chamber also included hydraulic systems built to protect whatever was hidden inside. These systems could redirect water, create pressure traps, and seal entrances. This level of engineering was far ahead of its time, suggesting the builders had knowledge equal to or better than engineers centuries later. More carvings were found in Latin, including a phrase that meant, "I will not yield." This phrase was believed to be a message of defiance carved by the Templars during their final years. The phrase added a powerful emotional connection to the chamber. It was not only a place to store treasure, but also a place to preserve the spirit of their order. As deeper scans were taken, the team found a sealed cavity beneath the main chamber. This cavity had not been touched in more than 600 years. Permission was needed to drill into it, and government representatives demanded strict precautions. The team lowered a stronger probe into the cavity. After hours of moving through water and sediment, the camera revealed fragments of gold fused with ancient glass. These fragments were believed to be parts of ceremonial vessels. When Rick held a piece of the gold, the reflections caught the light in a way that made the entire moment feel unreal. Among the items was a stone slab with Latin text that could only be seen under special light. The words translated to "Glory in the New Land." The slab also had runes that, once translated, revealed coordinates pointing to underwater chambers in Mahone Bay. This proved that the vault on Oak Island was not the only one. It was part of a chain of hidden sites. As global experts reviewed the findings, the story spread around the world. Many confirmed the results. The gold matched known Templar signatures. The glass matched medieval reliquary craftsmanship. The organic residue dated to the 14th century. When the full value of the items was totaled, it reached an incredible $95.2 million. The government then sealed the island under a heritage containment order restricting access. The team accepted the new rules, but they understood the meaning behind the discoveries. This was not only treasure, it was evidence of a group that tried to protect its beliefs during a time of great danger. They hid their legacy in a new world, hoping it would one day be discovered. As the sun set one evening, Rick looked out over the bay, holding a small fragment of gold. Light reflected across the water in bright lines. The island was quiet, but beneath the surface, ancient chambers still waited. Even now, with all the discoveries made, one question remains. Why did the Templars choose Oak Island, and what message did they hope the world would one day understand? As news of the confirmed treasure continued to spread, more people around the world began to look at Oak Island differently. For more than 2 centuries, the island had been treated as a puzzle, a place where many believed there was treasure, but where no one could prove anything. Now the situation had changed. The treasure was real. The artifacts were real. The gold was real. And suddenly, the world wanted answers. The discoveries were no longer just rumors. They were documented, tested, and verified by multiple laboratories. That changed everything. Scholars who had once laughed at the idea of Templar treasure in North America suddenly became silent. Others who had long believed in the legend felt a wave of relief. They had not been wrong after all. For years, many theories had been dismissed as wild stories, but now those stories carried weight. Historians began to return to old journals, faded maps, and forgotten letters, trying to understand how such a treasure could have traveled across the oceans so long ago. Many theories focused on the lost Templar fleet that vanished from France in the early 1300s. Some believed the fleet sailed north to Scotland. Others believed they crossed the open sea. Now, with the new evidence, the theory of a westward voyage gained strength. Meanwhile, the Lagina brothers continued to work under the restrictions placed on them. They were allowed to enter the dig site, but every movement was monitored. Every artifact removed from the ground was immediately inspected by government officials. Even simple tools used by the crew had to be logged in and out. It was no longer the easy, open search the brothers had carried out for years. Everything felt heavier now.
Every decision had consequences. Every discovery came with paperwork and waiting times. But even with the pressure, they continued to work. A new team of engineers arrived on the island to help study the lower chambers. These engineers specialized in ancient structures and had experience working with underground vaults in other parts of the world. They spoke quietly as they studied the scans, pointing to the unusual shapes in the stone and the perfect alignment of the chamber walls. One engineer said the craftsmanship reminded him of structures found in old European fortresses. Another said the flood system was more advanced than many medieval traps he had studied in castles in Spain and Italy. It became clear that whoever built the Oak Island vault had great skill and knowledge. Days passed as the team examined the new opening made by the probe. The melted gold mixture found earlier had already been moved to a secure location, but many believed more treasure was still waiting deeper in the chamber. The probe had only opened a small path into the first part of the vault. The largest space, the one shaped like a dome, remained sealed. The crew knew they needed to move carefully. The old trap systems could still be active. One wrong move could flood the entire chamber again. For centuries, that is exactly what happened to anyone who dug too fast. But this time, technology was on their side. Slowly, the team began drilling a controlled access point to reach the lower area. The drill moved slowly, shaving away thin layers of stone while sensors watched every vibration. A loud crackle came from the speakers as the drill reached air. The space below was hollow. The team paused. They lowered a small camera into the opening. Everyone watched the screen closely. The camera drifted downward through a cloud of dust until it reached a flat stone floor. For a moment, the room seemed empty. The air was still. Shadows covered the corners. Then the camera rotated, and something appeared in the darkness. A golden curve. Smooth. Unmistakable. Light glimmered softly off its surface. The room was not empty. The room held something large, something shaped, something placed there with intention. The crew leaned closer to the screen. The camera focused again. The shape came into view. It was a large chest, reinforced with metal bands that had barely rusted. The design was different from the first chest they had found. This one was larger and more ornate. Symbols covered the metal. Crosses, circles, lines that seemed to form a pattern, maybe even a code. Rick stared at the screen without speaking. Marty rested his hand on the table, leaning closer. The whole crew seemed frozen in place. After centuries of searching, this might be the heart of the vault. This might be the main deposit. This might be the answer to the mystery. The camera continued to explore the room, showing the walls lined with carved symbols. There were more crosses, more geometric shapes, and long lines that traced along the stone like pathways. It looked like a map carved into the room itself, as if the builders wanted anyone who entered to understand something important. But the meaning was not yet clear. The team made careful notes. They recorded every detail on the screen. They measured the size of the room using the camera's sensors. They marked the position of the chest. Everything needed to be documented before they entered. The government officials insisted on it. The crew understood why. This was no longer just an archaeological discovery. It was a part of world history. As preparations began for a full entrance, the air on the island felt different. Every worker moved with caution. Every decision was slow. There was an awareness that they were standing on the edge of something historic. Even the weather seemed strange, as thick fog rolled across the water every morning, hiding the island in pale white mist. Fishermen passing the area spoke quietly of bright lights and the sound of engines running late into the night. Some said they saw shadows moving among the trees. Others claimed to be watched by strange beings with glowing eyes. Rick raised his hand to the screen. Marty stood up. Everyone in the control room was holding their breath. Rick turned to the technician. His voice was low. I want you to examine those symbols. The technician nodded. Compare them to the carvings on the rocks. The technician typed quickly. All around the control room, sensors and equipment detected movement. Something in the room was giving off a strong electrical field. That's the same electric field we detected before, one of the technicians said. It's coming from the chest. It's stronger.
The island felt alive now, as if the past was finally waking up. At night, the crew gathered inside the main tent to review the new scans. The dome-shaped chamber looked even larger than expected. The walls had perfect angles. The floor showed the outline of several objects, not just one chest, not just two. Several, maybe more than 5. Some were small, some were long. One looked almost like a sealed box used for storing scrolls or documents. Another resembled a crate with thin compartments inside, perhaps made to protect delicate items. The deeper they looked, the clearer it became that this underground space had been carefully organized. The team knew this was no accidental deposit left by passing travelers. This was a structured vault, designed by skilled hands, built with purpose. The builders knew exactly what they were doing. They had planned every part of the chamber, the layout, the traps, the angles, the symbols. All of it had meaning. One historian studying the symbols suggested they might represent stages of a journey. Another believed they could be connected to religious teachings of the Templar order. A third thought the carvings might describe how the treasure came to the island. Whatever the truth was, they all agreed on one thing. The chamber was not just a hiding place, it was a message carved into stone. Meanwhile, the world continued to react. News outlets around the globe ran stories about the $95 million treasure valuation. People debated the origins of the gold. Social media filled with theories. Some believed the Templars had discovered new lands long before later explorers. Others claimed the treasure had a deeper spiritual meaning. Some even wondered if the artifacts held clues to other hidden sites. The mystery only grew stronger as more details emerged. Inside the vault tent on Oak Island, the team prepared for the next phase. It would take time, careful planning, and trained hands to enter the chamber without triggering the ancient flood traps. But they were determined. After generations of false starts and unfinished searches, the truth was finally within reach. They could feel it. And as they worked, one thought echoed quietly through the team. If this is what they found in the first chamber, what is still waiting in the rooms beyond? The next morning, the island felt unusually calm. The air was cool, and the light from the early sun stretched across the grass like a thin golden sheet. The crew gathered near the new access point above the chamber. The engineers reviewed their measurements one more time. The plan was simple. Widen the opening just enough for a small team to enter safely while minimizing the risk of activating flood traps, keeping the chamber sealed from water. The goal was to avoid triggering any old plumbing beneath the island. The ancient flood tunnels were still a risk, even though most had collapsed over the centuries. Rick stood quietly near the edge of the opening, listening to the low hum of the equipment. He had spent many years on Oak Island, digging through mud, fighting storms, repairing machinery, and lifting stones by hand. But this moment felt different from all the others. He felt as if he were standing in a place where past and present touched, where the work of old hands met the work of new hands. It was a strange feeling, heavy and thrilling at the same time. When the drilling began, everyone fell silent. The sound echoed through the trees, bouncing across the water. The island felt hollow beneath them, as if the underground chamber was a giant lung waiting to exhale. The drill moved slowly, carving a clean circle around the opening.